Hello, Froggy here, and today we'll be going someplace quite special. It's a place that eluded us for many years and defied all of the most powerful glitching tech that we could throw at it. Today, I'll be showing you how to break into the place I like to call the Door of Doors. You may never have heard of this place, so I'll go ahead and show you the site that piqued our curiosity. Inside of the blind well, towards the back of it, you may have noticed this very fancy looking doorway. Really captures the imagination for what could be behind it. Unfortunately, it fails the door test, so it's never actually going to open. But let's go see what's back there, just for fun. Like with most videos I have of this area, we'll be using this handy intangible wall. And going around the backside here. It's a little bit of a long jump, but you can do this with any class, particularly if you use a sword swing. Or a stasis crystal, or say a single grapple. You can hit the load zone underneath, but probably a bit easier to go above. And we'll hit the load right about when we round this corner here. Looks like some people might be starting it in a moment, so I'm going to keep off to the side, since if you're not in the middle of the room, you won't be affected by that whole damaging field thing. The room should be just above me up there, so let's climb up there real quick. If you look off to the side, you may notice the Dreaming City indicator. Another fun thing to check out. Up top, you can see that there are simply more doors. Looks like we'll need to use some more powerful glitches.
This is gonna bring in some heavy hitters.
A while back, we came across an incredibly powerful glitch that we called the Quantum Finisher. This glitch offset your hitbox, allowing you to walk clean through walls and do all sorts of crazy things. See, I ran straight through without any difficulty. Unfortunately, there was a catch. I did some research with Bachmanetti, and we produced this map that shows that the offset is a rotation around the map origin point, unfortunately located precisely at Door of Doors. The Quantum Finisher has no power here. Well, how about our other favorite quantum-themed glitch? With the Quantum Sparrow, you can pass through any wall you can bring the Sparrow next to. It's still somewhat in the game, if a bit inconvenient to produce, but it has another quirk. When you're riding a Quantum Sparrow, the game treats you as though you're at 0-0. If there's a turn back, you'll have that turn back as well. Unfortunately, in Blind Well, 0-0 happens to be in a kill barrier. So as soon as you touch that Sparrow, you die. Kind of hard to dismount a Sparrow if you can't get on it to begin with. Our best bet was IRB, but there were some complications there as well. The best place to set your spawn point was after Cali, but getting back without dying is very difficult, and after we solved that, they removed the load. You can't actually load Blind Well from Last Wish anymore. It's just not possible. But luckily, we have a workaround at long last. So instead of using Last Wish, we're going to be going into Shattered Throne. Thanks to Nonsense and the Cube 17 for finding this. We extensively searched this area way back in the day, and we entirely missed this. I'm not entirely convinced something didn't change to make it possible, but I suppose it is possible that we just missed it. Anyways, the first thing you're going to want to do is turn around. We're going to be climbing up onto the roof of Shattered Throne. You don't need grapple to do this, but as usual, grapple is just so convenient. Stasis climbing should work as well. You could technically go out the front door and climb up there as well. This is just a bit more convenient. So the load is right over here. There's a funny thing about this push barrier in the structure here. If you come over, you'll see you can not reach the edge at all. But on the right side, you can walk right up to it. And it turns out that right at the edge, if you do something that pushes in a little bit, you can make it through. Now we just gotta fly back over to the Confluence. It's a long flight, so let's go extra fast. Thanks to the power of grapple flying, any class should be able to pull this off. But as usual, Titan is definitely the nicest. Although it's worth noting that a fallback once you hit the Confluence will work as well. You can survive the fall by swapping to an eager edge sword, or slowing your descent with your jump, or swinging when you're about to hit the bottom. Lots of things will work. Plus, falling doesn't actually kill you these days. The easiest way to get back in the map is probably to just go right on top of these archways. You can walk straight back in. There's also an intangible ceiling, but I find that harder to find. At this point, we're just walking back to Divalian Mists, and there's nothing funny going on, so let's skip ahead. We're going to be heading into Last Wish to set an IRB point. The route is fairly similar to what I showed you at the beginning of the video, at least as far as initially getting out is concerned. But instead of trying to go into Blind Well, we're going to be going into Last Wish itself. Once again, you can easily clear this gap in any of a number of ways. Worth noting that we are in full patrol right now, so we can summon sparrows and all of that fun stuff. The push barriers are a bit funny here, so you have to stay close to the wall. And if you want, you can take the classic route that was used to get to the Last Wish chests early. But I'm going to be doing a route that I find to be a bit less annoying. Especially since the chest route, you're liable to die to the load and have to fall back on this method anyways. So we can jump up here and go back through the Calidor. And pretty much right where we hit the load zone, there is a secret hole to get back out of the map. You can either grapple or sparrow fly or what have you to get up into this hole, but it is rather dark and very difficult to spot the hole, which is why it's the secret hole. Grapple has a bonus that it actually gives you a little bit of light and makes this easier to spot. And now we just have to hit the load zone. It can be a little difficult to spot if you don't know what you're looking for. It's important that you get back into the map, so you either want to hit the load somewhere safe or die right after you hit it. Should be a little bit further. Yeah, by the if you can see the bridge, that's a pretty good indicator that you are nearby. It's the same bridge that you would run across to get over to Shirochi. Right about here is a good place to hit it. You might die to the load, but that doesn't really matter. Worst case, you might embed yourself in a wall, and then you'll need to die and have that spawn blocked by a stasis crystal. You're going to want to skip past the first pillar and go straight for the second one. This happens to be a little bit underneath the ceiling of Door of Doors. And that means that if we die here, we should be able to IRB directly into it. At this point, you're going to want to have your teammates back in Shattered Throne. Go ahead and activate the Darkness Zone. That also happens to be an auto-res, but we mostly just want the Darkness Zone so that we can wipe. It is much easier to wipe here than it is to try to get back into the blind well area without dying. You'd have to do a very precise blink, and I've never gotten that one first try. As soon as you wipe, that will pull everyone back into Shattered Throne. Keep in mind that wiping does kill you, so either stay dead or stay on top of that pillar. Taking advantage of that to regen some ammo, as you do. Because we can't regen ammo now. At this point, we need to get all the way back without dying. Because if we were to die, we would have to set our spawn point and do all of that again. At this point, the people in Shattered Throne can start progressing First Encounter. We'll be using the First Encounter's end as our next auto-res. Just don't wipe, or again, you'll have to start the whole process over again. Probably a bit easier to grapple fly up to the roof from here. And, oh, that was almost a big mistake. Glad there happened to be floor beneath me. You're about to see why I suggested turning around at the beginning. This roof is huge. So it's going to take a little bit to get to the other side. Hitting this load is a little bit higher stakes, but I've generally found that dropping off of this side and swinging to the right will hit the load pretty much every time. We've seen this before, so let's just skip ahead to Divalian. You will want to make sure that you don't have low light or something so that it's easier to not die to ads. Once again, we'll be doing this little section of the route. Although it is, once again, subtly different. It's a little bit higher stakes, of course, because, as with most IRBs, if you die before hitting the IRB itself, you have to reset your point. And that is a bit of an expensive operation here. Dying to this load can be kind of tricky, but we worked out a very consistent way to do it. We're going to want to fly up and over the load zone. You can also do this, of course, with grapple flying, stasis climbing, or anything like that. And you can use that structure over to the left if you're in need of a wall or something like that. There's a fair bit of objects you can jump off of. You'll then want to come over to this rock and drop down next to the other one. Don't do it like this, though. If you do this haphazardly, it's quite possible that you'll accidentally just hit the load on the way down. And if you do that, you'll have to try again. But luckily it is quite retryable. you could just drop right back into the map and head back to the beginning. The best part about trying to hit that death load is that it is very safe. So it is very unlikely that you'll manage to... What are those guys doing? Anyways, very unlikely that you'll manage to fall to your death or something like that. So let's give that another shot. Once again, just gotta go around this load zone. Get on top of this rock. And I would come over to the left and kind of try to float down next to the other side. You can safely walk forwards about to there. And then I would recommend crouching and slowly walking backwards. If you get teleported out of the way, you were very close to the load and you're doing the right thing. See, I kind of teleported there. And there we go. There's kind of some weird culling, so you can't really see what's going on. But as soon as your allies finish first encounter, you'll find yourself inside the mysterious door of doors. And it turns out, there's nothing here. Just doors. All doors. Though you can take a look at people trying to do blind well regularly. We had a running joke that this was the room that they would hide Wish 15 in, although that joke is now a bit dated. But anyways, we've managed to make it here. So let's take a moment to celebrate. This isn't the only way, though.
Battle ready.
It turns out that Salvo managed to do this using a Stasis finisher breach. When you do a Stasis finisher right against a wall, for some reason, Stasis finisher takes a longer time to end, so you have a few seconds that you can run forwards. However, that has complications of its own, because you have to do it when the encounter is going, since you need to push an enemy against the door. Also, generally when you respawn, you'll respawn back in blind well, so you have to manage to defeat that as well. I've not managed that way, but should be doable. Of course, the only thing better than one Guardian in Door of Doors is many. Through the magic of instance matching, you can manage to get up to 9 Guardians in this room. You can see Crash is marking the spot to die up there. To get 9 Guardians, you're going to need to have 3 patrol fire teams in here. When you're in patrol, you can just fast travel from the bridge point where you set your IRB to be able to go for the death to load. The people in Shattered Throne don't have that luxury. So as soon as you manage to instance match with your first other fire team, you'll need to have one person stay in blind well as an anchor, while another does the route. Set the death point on the bridge, fast travel to Divalian, and then hit the death to load. And if you do that, you'll be able to get more Guardians out here. You'll just have to have someone on the inside get the res. Once you have additional Guardians, you can disband the Shattered Throne team, and they can go for the instance match as well. Keep in mind that you can only have up to 5 different fire teams, so if you see that, you're going to have to wait for people to leave. You can try reaching out to people that are inside already if they seem like they might be amenable to joining in the festivities. If anyone AFKs while you're waiting to get all 9 Guardians in, you'll want to do so far away from the front door, because otherwise you may find yourself dying to Touch of the Deep and spawning back inside of blind well. I think if someone else gets the res you might be fine, but better to just avoid that. Of course, once you've got 9 guardians inside, the real difficult part begins. Deciding what emote everyone's going to do. It took us a while, but eventually we decided that we would form 9 guardians in a triangular conga line. It only seemed appropriate in honor of the final shape. After a decent amount of attempting to align, we finally did it. And here's the final result. It does feel quite nice to have a consistent way to get here after so many incredibly powerful glitches failed to open the way. So I would highly recommend giving this a go if you have ever wondered what it is like behind the blind well doors. In my next video, I'll be showing some other applications for this newfound Shattered Throne knowledge. But in the meantime, I would also suggest messing around with it on your own and seeing what you can come up with. It isn't often that we get entirely new things to play around with, at least outside of the new season.